Namaste and welcome to Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom on our Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels. As you all know, today is Dasera and Vijay Dashami. So, on behalf of the Virat Hindustan Sangam family, it is wishing all of you a happy Dasera and a Vijay Dashami. We had started this program in when it was a weekly program on the 2nd of April 2000 and on the auspicious occasion of Ram Navami. And today we have reached our 81st episode. First 2 months we had daily program during the lockdown, and then we converted our thing into a Sunday weekly show at 8 p.m. We have also recently added a Saturday show known as Legal Words of Wisdom, Nyay Gyan Ganga, and it is already yesterday was the fourth episode where we teach our young friends, citizens, and other people the importance of law. So today we come back with a very interesting topic. The topic is, as I mentioned, it is the 81st episode, and the topic is Kashmir, the Great Betrayal. The month of October has a great significance for Kashmir because it was on this day in 19 or this week virtually in 1947 that the Pakistani tribals, in fact, they were army people in tribal attire who raided our Kashmir portion, and then on the 26th, the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir came to Delhi, and on 27th of October 1947, the Maharaja signed with Sardar Patel the accession treaty. So, taking this into the background, today Dr. Subramanian Swamy and Major Gaurav Arya will be discussing the Great Kashmir, the Great Betrayal. Mr. Gaurav Arya has been on our show earlier, and he is one of the best, I would say, speakers we have had on our show. We can judge it from the response we got on the issue of POK in our previous show, and it was a big success. That speaks volumes about Major Gaurav Arya, as you very well know, and it is displayed on the screen. Major Gaurav Arya did his education in Delhi. Then he joined the army in 1993 and has been on the frontiers besides working in Kashmir and other sectors. He left the army in 1999 and then took up and did his MBA. He's worked in the corporate sector, and it is by chance one of his very nationalistic stands in 2016 that made him into a TV star or an anchor, and now he is associated with the Republic Media. So with this, we will be starting today's program. I would like to tell our viewers that you may contact Virat Hindustan Sangam on our website known as www.vhsindia.org. With these remarks, I will now request Dr. Subramanian Swamy to make his opening remarks on the subject Kashmir, the Great Betrayal. Over to Dr. Swamy.
Thank you very much, and welcome to our friend, the Major, who has been introduced elaborately by Jagdish Shetty. But that is only a small part of all the major achievements of his. We look forward to hearing him because he's also a very analytical mind. He's also got a MBA degree. So, I mean, he's very, very, very qualified from in a number of dimensions. Now, the reason we have this program, Major, is that youngsters must know what they are not taught in schools. And unfortunately, we don't teach such things in school as to why Kashmir is a part of India and what is the history and so on. So with the time available for this program, I think what first I would like to say is that Kashmir was created by Rishi Kashyapa. So it owes its existence to the Hindu tradition of India. And it was a place where people used to come. The Adi Shankaracharya went all the way from Kerala. All the way he went on the way doing the Shastrat, converting people to again back from Buddhism to Hinduism. And he finally went to Kashmir. And then in Srinagar, you have the Shankaracharya hill on which there is a Durga Mandir. So the connection of Kashmir to the rest of India has been very, very strong. It's not something that people imagine that it was some other state and it was ruled by a Maharaja and suddenly India grabbed it. Actually, what happened is when the British were forced to leave, they did not leave a united India. They partitioned it. They said we can't abandon the Muslims and go, so we'll give them another country. So out of India, they carved out Pakistan. But British India was not all directly ruled by Britain or the British authorities. It was partly, about 2/3 of India was ruled by British directly. But 1/3 was ruled by Rajas and Maharajas who had a separate kingdom, but whom the British had sort of pacified and put regents there. So they were almost like, protectorate of the British Empire. And so what the British did is that these 600 kingdoms, they declared them as independent countries. So we had Pakistan, India, and 600 countries around in the subcontinent. So it would have been a moth-eaten India if these Rajas and Maharajas and the Nawabs had not chosen to merge with India. And Sardar Patel single-handedly worked on this and used a constitutional instrument which British also had a constitution in 1935, and that constitution provided for the kingdoms to merge into British India by signing a simple letter called the Instrument of Accession, which didn't require the will or the permission of the public. It was the Maharaja who determined it, and his word was final, and nobody else needed to be consulted. So using that, the British Parliament, when they were creating Pakistan, they also introduced the right of the kings to either to merge into India or merge into Pakistan or remain an independent country. And because of Sardar Patel, 500 of those 600 kingdoms decide to merge in India. And there were some rebels. For instance, Hyderabad, it rebelled, saying the Nizam said no, he wanted to be neither with India nor with Pakistan. He stated that he will have a standstill position. But unfortunately, the murderous mobs called Razakars, they began going out of the Hyderabad state into the neighboring areas and killing Hindus in big numbers and gross brutalities. And this Sardar Patel couldn't stand, so he, being Home Minister, he sent the paramilitary forces, and then it was backed by the military. And by the time these forces reached the borders of Hyderabad kingdom of the Nizam, Nizam lost his nerve and he signed the Instrument of Accession, which didn't require the permission of the people. He signed it and Hyderabad became part of India. And the same thing with Jamnagar, the Nawab there. He first said, no, I will join Pakistan. But unfortunately, some of his followers or his citizens got a little ambitious. They started going to the neighboring areas outside the borders of Jamnagar and started attacking the Hindus there and trying to grab their property. And so Sardar Patel, to stop it, sent it to the borders of Jamnagar. But the king the Nawab got so nervous hearing the news that he had 500 dogs. He put them all into carriages, and he took all his jewels, etc., and ran away to Pakistan. So there was nobody left. It was a vacuum. And so Sardar Patel just walked in, sent his army to walk in, and that's how Jamnagar became part of India. Even though the instrument of accession was not signed. In the case of Nawab, and in the case of Hyderabad, the instrument of accession was signed. In Kashmir, there was a Hindu king, and he, this had been 100% Hindu kingdom, and then over the years, first the Buddhists came, and then the Muslims came in the place of the Buddhists. They reconverted the Buddhists mostly, and so he took the stand that he will make Kashmir into a kind of a Switzerland, and he will stand alone. But unfortunately, that did not happen, because the Pakistanis attacked him. They sent forces, so he came to India for help, and Sardar Patel said the same thing, signed the instrument of accession, which he signed. So Kashmir also became part of India. The dispute was created by Jawaharlal Nehru when he went to the UN. So from here, I will ask our eminent major to take over and say that what is it that has happened after the merger of Kashmir into India. And by the way, the British Parliament of 1935 said, once you merge, you can't demerge. So there's only one-way traffic. Once you go, that's it. You're dissolved into India. So the same way, Kashmir having merged into India, that was the end of it. So what is this dispute all about? Where does the UN come into the picture? Why is the Pakistan making a claim? And what happened to the poor Kashmiri Pandits? So many questions are there. And so no one better we can have in this program than our guest today. So over to him, and please explain to us the history of Kashmir after 1947.
Namaskar. I would like to thank Dr. Swamy ji for having me over. It's a unique honor. I feel privileged. And whenever I've interacted with him on 4 or 5 occasions that I've got, I've always found the entire exercise extremely enlightening. And I'm grateful that I've been given this opportunity to come here and speak on this program. Now, as Dr. Swamy explained in great detail about what happened in Kashmir, the origins of Kashmir, about Rishi Kashyap. So what happened was that the Maharaja was, for a little bit of a time, he was in two minds: independence, merger with India, merger with Pakistan. What happened was that Pakistan attacked barely 9 weeks after its own creation. But it did not happen like that. It did not happen all of a sudden. What actually happened was that this planning to invade Kashmir had taken place even before the creation of Pakistan. They knew for sure that Pakistan will be created somewhere around August 14th, etc. And they knew that. And they also knew that there will be a problem in Kashmir because it was a Muslim majority state. So they got all these tribals from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is the Pashtun area, the Pathan area of Pakistan, which borders Afghanistan along the Durand line. And they got all these Pathans. And one of the Pathans who came in to rape, to pillage, to murder was the famous cricketer Shahid Afridi's grandfather. In fact, Shahid Afridi is on record saying that, I'm very proud that my grandfather got a medal for coming into Kashmir and fighting as a jihadi, as a mujahideen. I don't know it. I guess it's a difference of cultures. How can somebody feel proud if his grandfather is a murderer, a rapist, and a looter? But I guess that is what happens towards our West. Now, what happened was that when the Maharaja signed the instrument of accession on 26th, immediately the Indian army started landing in Kashmir. So what we call the Srinagar airport is actually in Badgam area, and in that airstrip, now it's a full-fledged international airport. But then the forces landed. The first unit that landed was one Sikh, and one Sikh started pushing back the tribal raiders, and the second unit that landed there immediately afterwards was 4 Kumaon. And 4 Kumaon in this action won India's first Paramveer Chakra. Major Somnath Sharma was awarded, a grateful nation awarded him with India's first Paramveer Chakra from 4 Kumaon Regiment. Now, what happened was that when India started pushing back slowly and slowly and slowly, they started pushing back. And this all happened towards the west of Jammu and Kashmir. The west of Jammu and Kashmir, they started pushing back slowly, and the raiders were stopped, very interestingly, in Baramulla. For 2 to 3 days, the raiders were confused. They had burned down a church and a missionary school. They had raped nuns. They had killed the nuns. They had killed lots of Hindus. In fact, by some accounts, in the initial video that you saw, the book of Major Akbar Khan called Raiders in Kashmir was shown. The cover was shown very briefly, and in that book, on page number 1 itself, Major Akbar Khan says that around 11,000 people were killed. 11,000 innocent civilians were killed by the raiders who came in. So you can imagine the carnage, and he's only talking about Baramulla town. You can imagine the carnage that happened everywhere across Jammu and Kashmir because of these raiders. Now, these raiders, when they came, they found stiff resistance from the Indian army, and the Indian army started pushing back, pushing back, pushing back. And they took them right up to the mountains. Now, friends, do remember that Kashmir is a valley. It's a valley. So if you go to Srinagar, etc., even South Kashmir, you will find that the roads are plain. Unlike Uttarakhand or unlike Himachal, where there is, those winding roads up and down, roads in Srinagar and even other parts of the valley are literally plain. It's like driving in Delhi, except it's far more beautiful than Delhi, but it's pretty much similar. The roads are plain, straight, and there are no mountainous roads now. But when the Indian army started pushing them back to the mountains, that is when we could have pushed them. We had ammunition, we had arms, we had ordnance factories at that time, which were among the top in the world, which had actually supplied weapons during the First World War and the Second World War. There was surplus ammunition. Everything was there. We had a great army. We still have a great army. But it was at that point in time, for some reason, that India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, who I don't know what the reasons were. I think it could have been delusions of grandeur in his own mind that, I'm a global statesman. And he went to the United Nations, and you know what happened? Unfortunately, we've been paying the price of that folly for 73 plus years now. I was in a brief conversation with Dr. Swamy. I was mentioning today also that whenever you go to the National War Memorial, and this I'm telling all my friends who are watching, whenever you go to the National War Memorial, do look at the names of how many people have laid down their lives. And the National War Memorial has names only from the Army, Navy, and Air Force. If you go to the Police Memorial, you will find as many names of policemen who have died, who have laid down their lives in the line of duty in Jammu and Kashmir. This is the price we have paid for indecisiveness. This is the price that we have paid for somebody, and I'm not very happy but saying this, but the truth is the truth, and it must be said. Somebody who refused to be a leader when being the leader should have been the only alternative, but that was not to be. And today we are facing what we are facing in Kashmir. So we pushed the Pakistanis back, and there was a ceasefire declaration by the United Nations. That entire line where our army and actually the Pakistani tribal raiders were supported by the Pakistani military. And as usual, the Pakistanis have always said that, have always taken great pride in the fact that they use irregulars. So earlier they were using these Pashtun tribals. Today they're using terrorists. Nothing has changed. The mindset is the same. And if you read Major Akbar Khan's book, you will realize that he actually says that in the few first pages, he says that addressing the raiders or talking to them through the book, he says that your heroes are Ghaznavi and Gauri. So people who have looted the Somnath temple, the people who have killed Hindus, the people who have actually looted and raped and pillaged and killed, once they become your heroes, you try to emulate your heroes. This is very normal. A child who sees Sachin Tendulkar bat will try to look like Sachin and bat like Sachin. Similarly, a child who looks at Ghaznavi or Gauri as his idol or his hero will try to pillage when he grows up. He'll try to raid, rape, molest, kill, slaughter. So that becomes your cultural identity. And that is what the Pakistani raiders did in Kashmir. Now, all this happened over a period of time. And in 1965, so this was called Operation Gulmarg, what happened in 1947-48. From the Pakistani side, it was called Operation Gulmarg. And then Again in 1965, Pakistan again did the same thing. It used irregulars in Kashmir. And Pakistan also attacked as far as Akhnur is concerned. They started to enter from the Jammu side. They were met with very, very stiff resistance. And again, they were beaten back. Today, Pakistan celebrates something called Yom e Difa, or the Day of Defense. And they say that they have been able to save Lahore from the Indian forces in 1965. But Lahore was already saved. Lahore was never in danger. Had they not attacked Kashmir, Lahore would have never been in danger. But they did attack. And this is where their leaders lied. Why is it called the Great Betrayal? It was a betrayal of the Kashmiri people. It was a betrayal by our government, the way we have treated Kashmiri Pandits, the way we've treated Kashmiri Hindus. I'll come to that later. And they were the casualties. Today, if you have people like Mehbooba Mufti and Farooq Abdullah speaking, it is just that they don't seem to understand that the game is over now. They're still waiting for the movie to restart in their own mind, and which is why they're making such mistakes. Anyway, I'll come back to 1965. So 1965 was a war in which again Pakistan was pushed back. And Pakistan at that point in time did not learn a lesson because they thought that India has been militarily defeated in 1962 against the Chinese, and 1965 is a good time. Let's attack India and teach the Indians a lesson. Now, something else happened. They almost lost Lahore and the entire area around Ishugil Canal. So they backtracked, and next time India was better prepared. Mrs. Gandhi asked Field Marshal, that time General, later Field Marshal Manekshaw, Sam Manekshaw, to attack. And this was because there were many reasons, but one of the main reasons was that there were so many Bengali refugees from East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. They were streaming into India, and they were streaming in, I mean, lakhs upon, hundreds upon thousands were coming into India. And India's fledgling economy, weak economy, could not take the load because they were just coming in and there was no control at all. I think the tradition continues to this day. They're still coming in for vote bank politics, and our own politicians, they especially in West Bengal, are helping them. But that is a topic for another day. Now, what happened was when they came in, Indira Gandhi called General Sam Manekshaw and told him, Sam, I want you to attack. The cabinet is very angry and we want you to attack. So Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, at that time, General, Manekshaw being Manekshaw, said that, no, I don't think this is the right time. Madam, what do you want? She said, I want East Pakistan to be a new country called Bangladesh. He said, you will have your Bangladesh, but I will attack when I deem fit as a military man. And then he explained to Indira Gandhi the reasons why. And he said that, you're telling me in April, in May and June, there are going to be rains, and this entire area is going to be covered in water. Movement and logistics for us will become impossible, and the army works on movement and logistics. I mean, logistics are one of the single most important deciding factors, apart from the morale, equipment, motivation, tactics, and strategy. But logistics are extremely, extremely important right there at the top. And our logistics will not work out. And then he also said that we are not prepared right now. We need weapons, we need ammunition. So Sam Manekshaw worked like a man possessed. He went to the ordnance factories, he motivated people, the recruitment started, officers were trained, and this entire scenario was built. So India started preparing for war. It was on 2nd of December, 1971, that Pakistan, which was already jittery because they knew that India was preparing for war, because it's very visible. You cannot hide when an army prepares for war. Today, you can't hide because of satellites, etc. But even in ancient times, it was very, very difficult to hide. Some people have managed, but many could not manage because there is mass movement of man and material, especially in modern wars. So you see additional trains moving, aircraft moving, vehicles moving, Fauji's moving from here to there, submarines here, aircraft carriers there. It is not something that can be hidden. It is very obvious. And well, on the face of it, General Sam Manekshaw did whatever he could. The Pakistanis, as I mentioned, attacked on 2nd of December. They attacked various airfields, I think 4 or 5 or 6, 7 airfields they attacked all over India. And on the night of the 2nd of December, India declared war on Pakistan, 2nd of December 1971. 3rd of December, India stepped into Bangladesh. It took the Indian Armed Forces exactly 13 days to create a new country. It is history in itself. It has never been done in the history of the world. a new country created in 13 days, and that is what the Indian Army did. And when I say army, I'm from the army. I have this habit of saying army, and I don't want to upset my Air Force and Navy colleagues, but it was work in tandem and everybody worked together as a force. We call it jointness in the armed forces. Everybody performed. The Navy did a fantastic job. The Air Force did a fantastic job. The Air Force flew thousands upon thousands of sorties. And the Navy, the Indian Navy, carried out two brilliant operations. They carried out many brilliant operations, but two. One was, an operation in which they burnt Karachi harbor. They went inside and they burnt Karachi harbor. They sunk their missile boats, and there were other one or two civilian boats also in there, Navy boats, Pakistan Navy. They sunk those boats. Karachi harbor, they say, was burning for 7 to 10 days. The Karachi harbor kept on burning because all the fuel reserves were there in the Karachi harbor, and the Indian Navy just burned their fuel reserves. On the other hand, if you look at the eastern side, the entire this thing was blockaded by the Indian Navy, the aircraft carrier, and the aircraft carrier itself, its aircrafts were carrying out sorties. In this, the role of India's intelligence agencies is something that must be spoken about. And there is something very interesting that happened. That when the Bengali refugees, they came inside these refugees camps inside India, in Bengal and Assam and other areas. They were obviously trained, and the world knows that we trained Mukti Bahini, we trained the Mukti Jodha. But they say that it was the RAW or the Indian Army that created Mukti Bahini. Yes, we created Mukti Bahini, but there was a great deal of resentment against Pakistan's policies. And I'm not saying this. If you read the Homadur Commission report written by Justice Homadur, who is a Pakistani, when he wrote his report, and his reports are graphic. The narration is graphic. It's a wonderful report, and you must try and get hold of it. It's available somewhere on the internet, in which he says that over 3 million Bengalis were killed and 1 million Bengali women were raped. And this was all under a general called General Tika Khan, who when in Bangladesh was called the Butcher of Bangladesh. At that time, East Pakistan. So later on, he was called the Butcher of Bangladesh. And later on, the same general was sent, after the war was over, he was sent to Balochistan, and he came to be known as the Butcher of Balochistan. Now, coming back to East Pakistan, what happened was that Operation Searchlight was launched by General Tika Khan, and very sad, very gory things happened. They, soldiers have those bayonet, that long knives, which are attached to the rifle in front. They killed pregnant women by, stabbing them in the stomach with the bayonets. They killed the fetus, and they killed men and women and old people. People were executed, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people lined up and shot at the back of the head. This is what the Pakistani army did, because it all started off, actually, if I may take you a few years back, a few decades back, actually, it started off because of the one unit plan, which everybody thought was a brilliant exercise. And initially it was something that Ayub Khan propagated, but even before him, Jinnah, in 1948, he came to Dhaka and he was actually booed by the students. Now, what happened was that Sheikh Mujib refused to, Sheikh Mujib won the majority in the elections, Pakistan elections, but the Punjabi majority of West Pakistan refused to accept a Bengali as their prime minister. And they were led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who, by the way, was not Punjabi himself. He was a Sindhi, and the father of Benazir Bhutto. And he, with the army together, subjugated the Bengalis, and 6 or half a dozen or 1 dozen students were killed in the University of Dhaka by the Pakistan army because of these language rights, because they said that according to the one unit plan, everybody must speak Urdu. Everybody must speak Urdu. And the Bengalis are a very proud people, and their language is 1500 years old. So they said that, we are proud people and we refuse to speak Urdu, we'll speak Bengali. And they wanted to actually subjugate the Bengalis, and the Bengalis would not have that nonsense. So what happened was that when they came to India, they were trained by the armed forces, and they were trained by our intelligence agencies. And hence was created a guerrilla warfare unit called the Mukti Jodha or the Mukti Bahini. The Mukti Bahini was essentially trained in disruptive activities and guerrilla warfare, in ambush, in patrolling areas. They were trained how to blow up telegraph lines, telephone lines. They were taught how to blow up railway lines, and this they did, themselves, and they did it, and they were the communication lines of communication lines of supply were totally cut off. They had a very good track record in terms of uh, harassing the Pakistani army. They did not do anything against the civilians, but anybody in uniform was fair game for the Mukti Jodha and the Mukti Bahini, and they did that. And there was one very interesting incident of the 1971 war, that most of the technicians of the Pakistani Air Force were actually Bengalis. They were East Pakistani Bengalis, and they were the people who were technicians of the Pakistani Air Force, and our intelligence agents of various agencies. They approached them at night. They were already working inside East Pakistan, which later became Bangladesh, and they approached them at night, and they whispered in their ear, and they told them stories about how Bengali Muslims were being tortured by the Pakistanis, how pregnant women were being killed, and a miracle happened. All the Bengali technicians, they revolted and they refused to report for duty. Now, what happened was that when they stopped reporting for duty, suddenly the Pakistani Air Force, the famous Pakistani Air Force trained by the Americans, simply could not fly because there was nobody to maintain the planes, and there was nobody to sort of equip the planes in terms of loading the ammunition and all. So suddenly the Pakistani Air Force was grounded. It was also grounded because of the thousands of sorties by the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy. So all these three forces together did a great job. And on 16th of December, General Jagjit Singh Arora, he was there. In his presence, there was Lieutenant General A. K. Niazi, who was the Eastern commander of the Eastern command of the Pakistan Army, the entire Bangladesh today, the Bangladesh area, earlier East Pakistan, and he surrendered early evening hours on 16th of December. Now, all these Pakistanis who tell you that, we caught Abhinandan, all of you on social media must have seen Pakistanis saying that we caught Abhinandan and we taught Abhinandan a lesson, and, we did this and that, and we gave him a cup of tea and housed the tea. So you must tell the Pakistanis, whenever they talk to you like this, you must tell them, sir, you should know that 93,000 prisoner of wars were fed by the government of India for 3 years, not for 2 days or 1 day like Abhinandan. They were fed for 3 years, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and twice tea daily. They were fed for 3 years by Indians, the Indian Army. And also their generals came, they had scotch, they played golf, and they were very fond of that film, Pakiza. They were very big fans of Meena Kumari, and so many times they watched Pakiza because they felt it was a great movie. So we took care of them very well. Now, if you come back to Kashmir, we're calling it the Great Betrayal. This was about the wars. What happened was in 1989, terrorism started in Kashmir. Terrorism started in Kashmir, and it started where Mehbooba Mufti's father was the Home Minister of India. So whenever they say that, the hijacking of IC-814, Kandahar hijacking, people let terrorists loose, they always make that claim. The terrorists ko chhod diya. Terrorists ko kyun chhod diya IC-814? Terrorists ko isliye chhod diya because nearly 150 passengers were there and they would have got killed. But then I would turn back and I would ask, Mehbooba Mufti's sister was kidnapped. Saifuddin Soza's relative was kidnapped. Ghulam Nabi Azad's relative was kidnapped. And in all these things, all these incidents, lots of terrorists were freed. Hardcore terrorists were freed. Nobody questions that because this thing has been hidden from all of us. Now, Kashmir exploded in 1989. In 1990, on 19th of January, approximately 4 to 5 lakh Kashmiri Hindus, a majority of them Kashmiri Pandits, they were asked to leave. They were given 3 choices: Raliv, Galiv, Chaliv. Either you convert, you leave, or you die. And if you leave, Leave your women behind and then you go. This was the choice given to Kashmiri Pandits. We could have stopped this. We could have stopped this. How? Give a call to the army chief and say, we don't want this to happen. As a people, as a government, sometimes, because it is very easy for me to say, I don't know what the government was during that time. So hindsight is always 2020. I can always say that, I would have done this and all that. But maybe I could not have. But I know for sure that how is it possible that you have the army, the Navy, the Air Force, the BSF, the CRPF, the police, and 5 lakh Kashmiri Hindus have to leave the valley. They are the aborigines. They are the original inhabitants of Kashmir. This is a criminal offense which nobody talks about. Until today, we have not settled them back. It is our fault. So today, I must say that I am guilty. You are guilty. All of us are guilty because the plight of Kashmiri Pandits does not matter to us. Of course, Pakistan is to blame. But Pakistan is a terrorist state. What do you expect from Pakistan? But what about us? What have we done? We should have rehabilitated the Kashmiri Pandits and the Kashmiri Hindus. We should have put India absolutely first. We did not put India first. We made compromises. The government of India over a period of time gave money to the Hurriyat conference because the idea was that someday, if it is required, if plebiscite happens, they will take our side. So Gilani used to come here. He used to be given protection by Delhi police. Gilani has a pension of 60,000 rupees. He has a pension of 60,000 rupees. And he has a bungalow in South Delhi, in Khirki Extension. He has another property in Greater Kailash too, worth crores and crores of rupees. Only in Delhi, he has got property worth 100 crores of rupees. Now, can somebody tell me how can a person with a pension of 60,000 rupees actually have property more than 100 crores? And this is just Delhi I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Srinagar properties. So this is what happened in Kashmir. Today, what you are facing in Kashmir is massive radicalization, massive Islamic radicalization. And people have to address this because we are so scared of saying, if I say massive Islamic radicalization, people will say Major Gaurav Arya is he's a RSS agent. They will say that he is a Sanghi. They will say that he is communal person. But if there is Islamic terrorism, how do I say it is Islamic terrorism? If the Islamic State is operating in Jammu and Kashmir, if they are carrying the flag of the Islamic State, and while killing people, they are saying that they are doing it in the name of religion. What name should I say? Please enlighten me. What name should I take? And then they say it is, we are being communal. We are just stating facts. And the fact of the matter also is that we have to understand that Kashmir stopped being a political problem long time back. Kashmir has to be resolved with an iron fist. We have never understood, always talking, let's talk to him, let's discuss with him. And I often say this, and I'm going to say this again for the benefit of all people who are listening. 1947-48, Pakistan attacked us, we did nothing. 1965, it attacked us, we did nothing. 1999, Kargil, 527 brave hearts died, we did nothing. They attacked Parliament, we launched Operation Parakram. Hundreds of Indian Army officers and men died only due to accidents. Without a war, we did nothing. They carried out the 1993 Mumbai bomb blast, we did nothing. They started terrorism in Kashmir, we did nothing. They started terrorism in Punjab, we did nothing. The Akshardham temple was attacked, we did nothing. The parliament was attacked, we did nothing. We have become the nothing state because we do nothing. And we do not realize that a nation, a proud nation, does not live on its knees. कोई देश घुटनों पे जिंदा नहीं रहता है और ये हमें समझना पड़ेगा कोई देश घुटनों पे जिंदा नहीं रहता है. You don't live on your knees, you die standing. That is acceptable. You don't live on your knees. This whole thing about track 2, track 3, Pakistan se baat karo. क्यों बात करो पाकिस्तान से? For what? What do you want to talk to Pakistan about? They are sending people. Last week only we lost somebody in Kashmir. This has become a daily feature. Which self-respecting nation allows that? You tell me which self-respecting nation. You try to do it to Israel, they'll send fighter jets inside. You try to do it to America, they'll launch a war. America launch a war even without any death. They want an excuse to launch a war. And then we want to be called superpowers. Why? If we want to be called superpowers, let's start behaving like a superpower first. Then the world will respect you. It is written in our holy scriptures. Bhai ben hoy na preet. I say this every time I give a lecture or a speach. Bhai bin hoy na preet. There is no friendship without fear. You cannot be weak and expect the world to request you. This is what has happened in Kashmir. The betrayal of Kashmir, the betrayal of the Kashmiri Pandits, the betrayal of the Kashmiri people, the betrayal of Kashmir as a land. We were indecisive in 1947. We were indecisive, and we are still, those bitter fruits of 1947 refuse to go away. Today, after abrogation of Article 370, after abrogation of Article 35A, things have come to a slightly even keel, but there is much more work to be done. There is a 1994 resolution of the Indian Parliament, and Dr. Swamy was closely involved in that. At that time, he was a minister, and he was very, very closely involved in this. It is not about warmongering, my friends. It is not that you say, somebody is warmongering and he's a warmonger and he does not want peace. Everybody wants peace. I mean, Dr. Swamy is there. He wants peace. I want peace. You want peace. We just want peace with honor. That's all. Izzat ke saath hame shanti chahiye. Is that too much to ask for? Are we asking for the moon? We're just asking for peace with honor. And that is becoming so difficult to get. A dishonorable peace is not acceptable to the people of India. A dishonorable peace, and I would request, I don't know if the government ever sees this, but if the government sees this, I would request them that we should not have these things in mind. That what will the world think? China does not bother about what the world will think. America does not bother. England, France, Russia, they don't bother about what the world think. And we want to sit on the high table of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. Well, we must start behaving like them in the first place. They don't care. When national interest is there, national interest is paramount for all these five. Why shouldn't national interest be paramount for us? Why is it so difficult to send the Kashmiri Pandits and the Kashmiri Hindus back to Kashmir? Why is it so difficult? Why can't we do it? If we cannot even send back Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Hindus with honor back to Kashmir, let's stop saying that we are a regional superpower and this thing just because your GDP is at one time was growing at 8% or 7% or 9%. We are always talking like a business house. Economy is very important. Economy is extremely important because economy gives you sovereignty. Apart from giving people a standard of life, it gives you true sovereignty. But at the same time, China has used this economy to strengthen its military. I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of China. I'm not saying that. But at least, even if it is wrong, China is single-minded. We are not single-minded in our pursuit. We must be single-minded in our pursuit. Everybody respects strength. Today, China is at the line of control, eyeball to eyeball with our troops. So what has happened? ये तो अभी लद्दाख बन गया है. एक साल पहले तो ये भी कश्मीर था, जम्मू एंड कश्मीर. Where China is today. Today it is UT of Ladakh. 1 year back it was nothing. It was Jammu and Kashmir. And China chose this particular pace because in one side there is China, the other side there is Pakistan. And we are surrounded by two nuclear powers, two rogue states, two democracies, two countries that tell people that we have rights exactly like democracies, but two dictatorships actually. And we have done nothing because we want to talk. We want to talk to everybody who comes, let's talk. And what did China do? 5 or 6 agreements we had signed with China for the LAC. They tore everything. They threw it in the dustbin. And we lost 20 plus brave hearts on 15th of June, 2020 in Galwan Valley. This is what happened. Blood was shed where after 1962, blood had not been shed. Blood was shed. And it happened because we must understand this entire Kashmir thing. I'll come back to the betrayal of Kashmir. How has India been betrayed? India has been betrayed simply because the people who are dying for Kashmir are not just Kashmiris. Colonel Babu was a South Indian. He died on the line of actual control. Colonel Ashutosh, he was not a Kashmiri. There are so many people, if you go to the National War Memorial or the Police Memorial, who have died, laid down their lives fighting for Kashmir, who are not Kashmiris. Kashmir is impacting the rest of India. And unless you hammer Pakistan, The problem is in Rawalpindi. The problem is not in Srinagar. We are trying to solve the wrong problem. And for more than 30 years, we are solving the wrong problem. The problem, unless Pakistan knows that there will be severe consequences, Pakistan will not stop. Why? Because it is not a democracy. It is a country that is ruled by the army. This is something that we must understand. And those tribal raiders that Dr. Swamy was telling us in great detail about, those tribal raiders, they will come again. You mark my words today, I'm telling you, my friends, they will come again and again and again, and they will keep on coming for the next 100 years. There are hundreds and thousands of unregistered madrasas in Pakistan. Hundreds of thousands of unregistered madrasas in Pakistan. Can you imagine? One madrasa sends one terrorist, just one. They have the capability to sustain this terrorism inside Kashmir for the next 100 years. And what will happen on our part? The war memorial will just start getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger each and every. Today, I feel like weeping when I go to the war memorial because there are walls. There are empty walls. I went to my regimental center in Ranikhet. I saw there are empty walls. And I asked the officer, ये खाली दीवार क्यों है? He said, sir, जो कल शहीद होंगे उनका नाम इधर लिखना है. Every war memorial in India has empty walls. It is because we fail to understand that Pakistan respects the language of strength. When blood flows inside Pakistan, then Pakistan will understand. It will not understand the language of diplomacy. These people are rogues, they are barbarians. When blood flows, when there is a price to be paid for Pakistan's perfidy, when there is a price to be paid for Pakistan's misadventure in Kashmir and in India, 26/11, 26/11, it was done by Pakistan. It was not in Kashmir. Pathankot is not in Kashmir. Sarojini Nagar is in Delhi, it is not in Kashmir. So do we think that this entire terrorism is only limited to Jammu and Kashmir? No. It has been happening in the rest of India. Today, there is radicalization happening in Kerala. When I say there is radicalization in Kerala, they say, ye to Sanghi hai, ye to communal hai. Now, please tell me, which is the state in India from where maximum people are going to fight for Islamic State? They're going from Kerala. What wrong am I saying? They're going from Kerala. They're fighting there in Islamic State. They're coming back. And I can tell you, the next problem that happens in India, mark my words today, will not happen in Kashmir, it will happen in Kerala. Because you're unable to stop radicalization in Kerala. We must do it. We must understand that this is a clear and present danger to the national security of India. Pakistan will never stop unless it is physically stopped. Do you want to stop terrorism from Pakistan? Go into Pakistan, switch off the tap. And where is the tap? The tap is in GHQ Rawalpindi, the headquarters of the Pakistan Army. You must have the capability to enter Pakistan and switch off the tap. Otherwise, it will not happen. Am I being bombastic? Am I being loud? Am I being a warmonger? No, I'm simply telling you the truth. Because you have tried peace, and peace has never worked, like it did not work in 1947 with the raiders in Kashmir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gaurav Arya. Dr. Swamy, for your further questions and discussion. But before that, I would like to make a minor correction. When Dr. Swamy referred to Jamnagar, actually he was referring to Junagadh.
Junagadh.
Okay,
Yeah,
over
right.
to Swamy.
Correct. Yes. Major, Kashmiri Pandits are ready to go back, but they raise the question, who will protect us? I have a suggestion, and I would like to know what you think of it, that I have met many ex-army men who, in army you retire very early, and they are still fighting fit. So what I think we should do is that since about 5 lakh Kashmiri Pandits were driven out, we should arm the ex-servicemen, give them plenty of money, and ask them to go and settle in Kashmir, so that when the Kashmiri Pandits come, they can be their protection force. I've tried this out with many ex-army people. They said we'd love to do it, provided the question of our children's education and our family is looked after. That can be easily done. You should build several cantonments only for these ex-servicemen, and the houses of the Kashmiri Pandits should be near these cantonments. And then after a period of time, the Kashmiris will understand, the present Kashmiris there will understand, and the Kashmiri Pandits will then be in a position to be secure, and we would have solved the problem. I mean, I'm putting it very simplistically, and I would like your reaction on that.
Dr. Swamy, sir, I think you're absolutely correct. Ex-serviceman, a Jawan of the army, 34, 35, 36 years of age, he generally retires if he does not get promoted. And there are a lot of short service commissioned officers in the army who would be leaving the army at the age of 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, that age group, sir. And these people are highly trained.
Yes.
They're trained to use arms and ammunition. They're trained in tactics and strategy. And what you're saying is something which is very workable, sir. It can be done immediately if the government so desires. It can be done immediately, sir.
Yes.
And all of them, sir, of them at one point in time in their careers would have operated in Kashmir. They know the land also. I think it's a wonderful plan, sir. I think they should do this.
I'm grateful to you for the endorsement, because if everyone else has a high regard for you. You've read what you have written, we have read what you have spoken, and we know that you are fully clued in on this whole thing. I would also say that India should try and break Pakistan into four, because Baluchis are ready, Pakhtunis are ready according to me, Sindhis are ready. That will leave the residual West Pakistan, West Punjab. So we should start by trying to dismember Pakistan so that they learn a lesson. Do you think it's a feasible
Absolutely,
proposition?
Sir. Pakistan, we have broken Pakistan before, so there is a test case which has been done already, sir.
Yeah.
It's happened, and
Right.
Pakistanis. The beauty about Pakistan is that everybody hates everybody in Pakistan, sir. So yes, sir. The Punjabis hate the Baloch hate the Punjabis, the Sindhis hate the Punjab. In fact, everybody hates the Punjabis in Pakistan, sir, because they have captured the bureaucracy, the army, the land, everything, sir, and the political power, etc. And so I think this is something that Balochis are absolutely ready. Everybody is ready in Pakistan. It requires, because Pakistan, sir, essentially, that is the reason for the one unit plan, which I had mentioned, sir, is that they were Pakistan. Even Jinnah knew that this is an artificial construct.
Yes.
He knew that he knew Pakistan was synthetically manufactured. So he said, what is the commonality? So it is religion, number one, and number two, it is language. So the religion card failed because the Bengalis said that we are Bengalis, and they separated, sir. And even the language card has failed. So Pakistan is currently ripe. I have messages, sir, from people in Gilgit-Baltistan. I have messages from people in POK, sir, and people who are living inside. And those are the people who say that we are sick and tired of Pakistan. These people, even the bunkers, sir, you'll be very surprised. The bunkers that they built along the line of control.
Yes.
For civilians.
Yes.
Sir, it feels, being a veteran myself, I don't know how an army could do this. The women there have told me on phone that, brother, we are scared to go inside the bunkers because we are molested by the Pakistani army. And these are the people. So these are Rakshasas, actually. These are not human beings, these people.
Yeah. Right.
So I think it is time, sir. The time is right, sir. Time is right. We should do it, sir.
Right. Okay, Jagdish. Who else? Arvind?
Dr. Swamy, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You as a minister
Yes.
in the Chandrasekhar government dealt with some terrorist issues in Kashmir. Could you tell us, for the benefit of our viewers, what exactly was the issue on the terrorism in Kashmir you dealt with?
Well, I think, Major, if you look at the records, you will find that in the case of Saifuddin Soz, no one was released. I have the entire papers with me. I'll tell you what happened. I was the senior most minister of Chandrasekhar's government at that time. And Saifuddin Soz was absolutely heartbroken, and he was crying and rolling on the floor. That bad it was. his daughter had been kidnapped. And so the matter came up before the Cabinet Committee on Security, or what is called as the Political Affairs Committee. And I was there, Chandrasekhar was there, and all the military generals, the IB chiefs, all, they were all there. And the question is, what should be done? And the Chandrasekhar was in favor of taking sick people in the jails who have been several years there, जो कोई किसी की काम के नहीं होंगे, to make a gesture by releasing. And I said, no, that we can't do, because we have done that in the Mufti Said's daughter case, and what a reaction there has been, what a setback there has been, we can't do that. So therefore I can now say, I mean, without fear of violating my oath of secrecy, that we consulted the Israelis. And the Israelis only asked me one question: where are the office bearers of who kidnapped this girl? And I said they are this JKLF, and most of their office bearers are in London, in England, Leicester, Birmingham, like that. So the advice given, which we took and did, we visited these people. We immediately sent our raw people to England. And we informed them that if this girl is not released, then they won't be living anymore. And you would believe it or not, the JKLF put her in an auto rickshaw and took her to the home of Saifuddin Soz and let her go. This is, Saifuddin Soz tells a lot of people that Swami saved me, saved my daughter, and so on. But this is something I've kept secret, and I'm telling you today, there's always ways of dealing with these people. Terrorists can only be dealt by what I would call as counter-terrorism. And that is, speak in the language they understand. And that language, once you start speaking, they will disappear from Kashmir.
No, in fact, sir, this auto rickshaw, this was the auto rickshaw case, sir. Then I stand corrected in case of Saifuddin Soz. I heard about the auto rickshaw case, sir, but I didn't know it was Saifuddin Soz. So I stand corrected this, sir.
That's right. I was a minister at that time.
Sir.
गौरव आर्या और डॉक्टर स्वामी दोनों से मेरा एक प्रश्न है। वो प्रश्न ऐसा है कि जब हम कश्मीर की बात करते हैं, जिस तरह का वर्णन अभी मेजर गौरव आर्य ने दिया है, वो बिल्कुल रोंगटे खड़े कर देने वाला है। जिन लोगों को इतिहास की जानकारी नहीं है, खासतौर से हमारे युवा वर्ग के लिए, हम लोगों ने तो इतिहास देखा है, पढ़ा है, 1990 के दौर से हम भी गुजरे हैं, लेकिन जो नौजवान हैं उनके लिए तो ये एक ऐसा इतिहास है जिसको उनको बताया नहीं गया, जिसको उनको पढ़ाया नहीं गया, जिनको छुपाया गया। और जो सोल्यूशन डॉक्टर स्वामी ने अभी दिया है, जो मिलिट्री लोगों को वहां बसाने की बात थी, मैं डॉक्टर स्वामी के साथ इतने वर्षों से हूँ, मुझे पता है उन्होंने आज सोल्यूशन नहीं दिया। गौरव आर्य को आज पता लगा होगा, डॉक्टर स्वामी इस बात को 20 साल से कह रहे हैं और लगातार कहते आ रहे हैं, और उन्होंने आर्टिकल भी लिखे हैं, अपनी पुस्तक में भी इसका जिक्र किया है। लेकिन जो सरकार जिसको काम करना चाहिए, उसने कान में तेल डाल के रखा है। अब मैं किसी भी सरकार का नाम नहीं ले रहा, और इसमें सभी सरकारें शामिल, लेकिन जिस मुद्दे पे मैं आना चाहता हूं कि जरूर हमारा पाकिस्तान से जो इशू है कश्मीर के लिए, लगभग नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न कश्मीर में जो 20% हिस्सा है जिसमें चाइना की दावेदारी है, अक्साई चीन वाली बात है, वो कितना महत्वपूर्ण है, उसके लिए हम क्यों एक तरह से उसकी अनदेखी कर रहे हैं, उसके ऊपर कोई हम वार्तालाप नहीं करते, उसके लिए हम कोई सेमिनार नहीं करते, उस पर कोई बहस नहीं होती। एक टंगा हुआ है हमारे सिर के ऊपर, हम सिर्फ पाकिस्तान की बात करते हैं और अक्साई चीन को भूल जाते हैं। ऐसा क्यों?
उसके लिए अलग से एक सेशन करेंगे। ये दोनों अलग अलग सब्जेक्ट्स हैं। नहीं, आपका पॉइंट तो बिल्कुल ठीक है। उस पर मेरा अभी पुस्तक भी बाहर नहीं आ रहा है, छपकर आ रहा है चाइना का इसमें। तो मैं तो कहता हूँ कि यस, वी हैव बीन वेरी वीक। Why did we have an alliance with Mufti Said, the lady, what's her name, Mehbooba?
Mehbooba.
She was an out-and-out terrorist, you see, or terrorist compliant. But we had it. And this is because it's, the bureaucrats talk in this language. We should give an image to the world that we are accommodative, we are large-hearted, and so on. But these people will never change, you see. There's only one language they understand, and that is comply, or that's the end of you. And Mufti Said's daughter, she has now shown her true colors. People are criticizing her and denouncing her, and the Twitter is attacking her. But she never betrayed her cause. It is we who forgot our cause. And when we could have easily have been had our own prior chief minister, we decided to have her as a chief minister. It would have been better not to have a government at all, but rather than have a government who penetrated in the entire secretariat. She at one stage even wanted our Indian flag not to be put in the secretariat. And then you may remember I threatened to do a dharna in Lal Chowk. And then the government of India then intervened and stopped that from happening. So I think we must now know there is no scope for any accommodation, any hope of reform from anyone who has once espoused the terrorist cause, unless that person is willing to fight terrorists by picking up a gun. Otherwise, you can't trust anybody of that type.
Yes. Dr. Swamy, I have an observation, more so because frankly, this October 22nd, I've heard in the past, but really not looked into it seriously. But looking at what Major Gaurav said today and what I've read in the past day or so, it is fascinating that not even any leader, of this country in the past has ever acknowledged that such a betrayal has happened. Not, forget about even in the modern era tweet or even talk about it. It's fascinating that, such a great betrayal has happened. And even the comments that we see today, nobody knew this happened. That's how shameful our history is. We tend to ignore. I think by ignoring, we feel that we are good. I think it's more towards what I would jokingly put is noble intentions of peace. You can take the pun intended inside that. Everybody wants a noble intention, so that's it is. You just can't win Pakistan over mollycoddling. You just have to slap them, thrash them, because they have nothing. They're a completely bankrupt, completely corrupt, and most inefficient state. And why are we afraid of this? Why are we having so much of? Our army. Why should they get bled by 1,000 cuts? You tell them, okay, fine, you're going to go in anyway. They have already pledged their life for this nation. You're allowing them to train all of them, and they say, oh no, we can't go today. We have 3 nuts and bolts missing or 1 gun missing. What is all this nonsense? Just go out there. Why don't you trust the army? Why don't you trust the armed forces? They know how to get it done. Bureaucrats sitting in Delhi decide, oh, you know what, maybe we need to have 10 more planes. And then that corruption. Why don't you allow what the army does the best? And they've done phenomenal support. Defending this every day, not any India, maybe once in a while they come up and say we support the army. But at the end of the day, every day we see armed forces sacrificing their lives in the border. And that too only one border. Now it's become 2. How long can we keep silent on this? And why? It's just fascinating to see. Being in the US, I know if two Americans get killed in Afghanistan, we just bomb the hell out of them. So that's our attitude. You mess with me, I mess with you. That's it. There is no other equation from our point of view. That's it. And look at Israel too, surrounded by enemies, most feared by all of their enemies. Anyways, I just wanted to make an observation. Thank you.
If I can say something, sir.
Of course, you're the chief guest here.
And that's so kind of you, sir. Just to respond to you, you can import weapons. You cannot import spine. Spine that you have to grow on. You have to grow on your own.
See, the point, Major Gaurav, is we have such great people in the army, and it's just frustrating that some Babu sitting in Delhi decides what that guy should do with his gun. Whether he can shoot 2 bullets or 1 bullet. If he shoots 1 bullet, please fill a form that you fill.
Why Babu? When Mehbooba phoned up the then Defense Minister Nirmala, saying that I want to register an FIR against an army officer, even though the act, what is that act which is
Afswaza. Afswaza.
That's right. That was there, which says state government has no right to register any FIR against army personnel. She said, go ahead, release it. And you know how much hangama I created, went and met the president, and then only it was clarified that the government is not doing any such thing. So this is the issue. The issue is that military people should be allowed to make the strategy, and the maximum politicians should do, like Lal Bahadur Shastri did, whether it would be feasible within the limitations he works in terms of finance and so on. And if he thinks that is to be done, Lal Bahadur Shastri opened up, when we were having a fight in Kashmir, he opened up in Lahore, which Jawaharlal Nehru never thought of doing. And even Mrs. Gandhi definitely, if I would give the credit largely to General Jacob, he disobeyed an order. And this is recorded in his book. He disobeyed an order sent by Manekshaw to him by telex, saying that don't capture Dhaka. Stop just outside Dhaka. And he still went and made that Niazi surrender. And then when he was subject to a secret court-martial, he said there was no electricity there, so the question of my receiving any message through teleprinter didn't arise. So I have not committed, unknowingly I have not done anything. And that's how he got left out, and then he was discharged. Then, of course, we joined BJP and we made him governor. But this was his regret all his life. He never got credit, and he was a Jew, Indian Jew. And, and the Pakistanis were forever complaining that we deliberately sent a Jew to get them, imprisoned. Those 110 soldiers you're talking about. So there's our politicians also are very crazy to get good plaudits from foreign powers, and that makes them do some of these mistakes.
So one other thing, we are continuing to allow this betrayal to happen now within the country. Earlier, if October 22nd, 1947 was the first betrayal or to some sort, this Gupkar what is this Gupkar delegation of bunch of Kashmiri parties going against our own nation, and we allow this nonsense to perpetuate because we are a peaceful country, we want what? When will this stop?
No, we may be a peaceful country, but I don't know what our measure here says. But I think that it's a non-starter. So rather than doing anything about it, you let them, fuse their own bulbs very soon. I don't think that in this particular case we need to do anything. What we need to do is what Gaurav said: destroy Pakistan. And we are within the reach of that. We can do it. And even the Chinese are not going to be in a position to intervene if we decide to dismember Pakistan. And there are enough other forces which will work on it. But, we are allowing every problem to come. Now the Chinese are also a problem for us. So just by being nice, no country is going to be nice to you.
Major Gaurav, your thought on this Gupkar, because the media is doing such a lousy job on exposing such shenanigans. I don't know. I have the choicest New York language for this group, but I can't do that on YouTube. But typically, so your thought on this?
It's like the Lutians of Srinagar. What happens is that this entire zone of Gupkar. Gupkar is the place where Abdullah and the Muftis and all the big shots live. So it's a lovely, beautiful, leafy neighborhood, and it's a nice place. But the problem is that these people, over a period of time, they have the same problem that generally dynasts will have. They think that the sun rises and sets in Gupkar, and Kashmir matters because of them. They actually feel that way. The problem is that for the past 1 year, and this I've said it and it became controversial, but I'll say it again, is that today Mehbooba Mufti and Farooq Abdullah cannot move out of their houses on the street. amongst the common people.
That's right. Correct.
You know, people have got sick and tired of their corruption and their misdeeds. And people are, because I go very often to Kashmir. I'm again going in a week's time.
Okay.
And people are absolutely sick and tired of these two families.
Dr. Swamy, can we just raise the property tax in Gupkar by 10,000%?
I can't raise anything. I can speak to somebody to raise it, but he may not agree.
Just, it just, probably that will get them out of that place.
आपने पाकिस्तान को तोड़ने की बात की। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने लाल किले के प्राचीर से 2-3 साल पहले बात की थी कि बलूचिस्तान, गिलगित बाल्टिस्तान को हम सपोर्ट करेंगे, लेकिन वो बात दब गई, किन फाइलों के नीचे चली गई और उसको हमने क्यों कवर कर लिया, ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा।
अमेरिका ने बलूचिस्तान के ह्यूमन राइट्स सेंटर खोल के रखा न्यूयॉर्क में। कब से? पिछले 4 साल से। हम तो कहते हैं तो बलूचिस्तान का इमिग्रेट गवर्नमेंट खोलने की जरूरत नहीं है, आप सिर्फ एक ह्यूमन राइट्स सेंटर खोल लीजिए और कहिए तो दिस इज अलाउड अंडर द यूनाइटेड नेशंस चार्टर, जैसे अमेरिका कहती है, एंड देन बिल्ड ए लीडरशिप। You see, there are lots of good people in Balochistan. They are all in Delhi. They are living as refugees. You can pick and choose and then construct them, give them training.
फेसबुक पे इतने बलूचिस्तान के लोग हैं
बलूचिस्तान तो कभी नहीं तैयार थी पाकिस्तान का हिस्सा बनने के लिए, उसको जबरदस्ती मिलिट्री भेज करके उन्होंने किया था। So anyway, all good things must come to an end. Because of you, Gaurav ji, we have broken all records in the amount of time we have taken of yours, because of this tremendous interest in the audience and tremendous interest amongst ourselves. You have spoken very well, and we hope to have you soon again, maybe to talk about China, what to do in Ladakh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Arvind.
थैंक यू मेजर गौरव आर्य जी और डॉक्टर सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी। ये विषय इतना विशाल विषय है और हर भारतीय के हृदय को टच करता है, कि हर भारतीय इसमें रुचि रखता है। और जैसा कि आपने कहा कि हम जरूर इस पे कोई और एक प्रोग्राम रखेंगे, ताकि जो भी भारतीय मानस है, जो चिंता हमारे भारतीयों को है, उस विषय पे हम बातचीत कर सकें और कोई ना कोई हल निकाल के प्रस्तुत कर सकें। और मेजर गौरव आर्य, आपने जो आज सलूशन बताया है, और जो इतिहास बताया है, वो इतिहास हमेशा लोगों को याद रहेगा। कुछ लोगों को जिनको पता नहीं था, उनकी आज आंखें खुली हैं। और डॉक्टर स्वामी हमेशा इस तरह की सलूशन और इस तरह के हल हमें प्रस्तुत करते रहते हैं। डॉक्टर स्वामी और मेजर गौरव आर्य, आप दोनों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जगदीश शेट्टी जी, रमेश स्वामी जी, आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हमारी टेक्निकल टीम जो हमें सपोर्ट कर रही है, हम अक्सर उनका नाम भूल जाते हैं कभी कभी, लेकिन वही हैं जो इस प्रोग्राम को चला रहे हैं आशीष शेट्टी के नेतृत्व में। लेट मी एक्नॉलेज द कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ ईश्वर अय्यर, गडगी राकेश, स्वामीनाथन, तेजस एंड विशाल मेहता। On Saturday next we will be meeting in Nyay Gyan Ganga, and Sunday next we will be meeting again on Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga with a new topic and Dr. Subramanian Swamy. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Namaste.